Welcome to our first episode of the Matterhorn. This is a miniseries presented by Disney Gem. In the summer of 1935, Walt Disney embarked on his first European journey, accompanied by his brother Roy and their wives. This 2-month adventure took them through England, France, Germany, and Italy. This trip was not only a much-needed trip, but also served as a wellspring of inspiration for Walt's future creation, especially Disney's architecture. As detailed in Didier Guillaume's book, Disney's Grand Tour, this voyage left an undeniable mark on Walt's creative vision, including his love of the Switzerland Alps, which would later become the Matterhorn, which was also inspired by the movie shot at the Blue Matterhorn, called Third Man on the Mountain. 18 years later, in 1953, Walt returned to Europe after his 1935 trip with his wife Lillian. During this trip, he was captivated by the beauty of Zermatt, a charming mountain village nestled beneath the towering Matterhorn. The cleanliness, relaxed culture, and rich traditions of Switzerland. Its folk dances, cleanliness, music, and costumes deeply fascinated him. In a 1971 interview, Walt reflected on Europe's profound impact on his storytelling, stating, "Europe is the cradle of the fairy tale, and I've always felt the magic of its history. The castles, the forests, and the myths. Everything there speaks to the imagination. It made me realize that there was so much more in the storytelling than just what I had seen in America. Europe helped me to dream bigger," said Walt Disney in a 1971 interview. In 1955, Walt produced the documentary Switzerland as part of the People and Places series. This was released on June 16, 1955. The short film showcased the nation's breathtaking landscapes and cultural heritage. The documentary received an Oscar nomination, underscoring Walt's ability to capture the essence of the places that inspired him. Shortly after, Disneyland would open on July 17, 1955, almost exactly a month later of the Switzerland documentary. Around the late 1940s, Walt began envisioning this theme park, a place where his animated characters and stories would come to life. Initially dubbed Mickey Mouse Park, the concept evolved into what we know as Disneyland. Walt described this vision, saying, "Disneyland is like Alice stepping through the looking glass. Step through the portals of Disneyland will be like entering another world." During Disneyland's construction, starting on July 16, 1954, excess soil from excavation projects led to a 20-foot mound known as Holiday Hill, located east of Sleeping Beauty Castle, between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. This area was initially landscaped with shrubs and grass, however it soon became a secluded spot for teenagers, leading to security concerns. Walt even placed a fence around the hill, and teenagers would climb over to make out. Especially, this led to more security concerns, and this also led to the hill being called Lover's Lane. There was also no originality to Holiday Hill, nor natural landscaping, which Walt wanted in the park. Dissatisfied with Holiday Hill's appearance and eager to introduce a unique attraction, Walt envisioned transforming this mound, seeing it as a waste of space. Legend has it Walt wanted a mountain since the construction of the park, while sitting on a park bench, gazing towards an empty patch of sky between Sleeping Beauty Castle and the Monsanto House of the Future. There was nothing to see but blue sky, an empty space of dirt. "What are you looking at, Walt?" said the cast member. Walt replied, "My mountain," indicating his vision for a mountain attraction in that area, pointing towards the empty sky. This showcased Walt's concept of originality before the park was even built, and how he was a true visionary with the fantastic ability of storytelling to imagine things that were not even there. Walt wanted a mountain from the start, and a high structure to take over the spot of the Skyway pylon. An interesting fact, before 1959 and Matterhorn's construction, the highest point in Disneyland was the treehouse on Tom Sawyer Island. Early park maps proudly highlighted this feature, and it was even taller than Holiday or Snow Hill. By late 1956, Walt proposed covering the hill with artificial snow to create a tobaggan attraction. This was his very first idea of Matterhorn, initially naming it Snow Hill. As the concept evolved, it became Snow Mountain, drawing inspirations from his European travels in 1935 and 1950s. as well as childhood memories of sledding in Missouri. When Walt looked at Holiday Hill, he thought of winters in Missouri from 1909 when he was a boy riding down a blanket of snow. In 1938, Walt had even written a letter to Marceline News in which he reflected on the joys of growing up on a farm just outside of Marceline, Missouri. In that letter, he recalled what fun I used to have on winter days going down the hillsides, lickety split on a sled. Walt loved the Swiss Alps, thought that the toboggan ride would work and actually take place there, because he was struck by the natural scenic beauty of the Matterhorn located there. Also, while traveling there, he saw a bobsled ride in a Swiss mountain village, and the idea sparked in his mind. Skyway at Disneyland officially opened on June 23rd, 1956. Walt wanted to camouflage the central pylon of the Skyway, have a ride to hide the Skyway pylon. This also pushed Walt to have a tall structure in the park to hide the pylon. In 1957, Nunes, the head of park operations, pushed the idea of a roller coaster in the parks to bring older guests in to come visit. There's a photo of Dick Nunes saying, "Wasn't there something as a kid that you always wanted to do but didn't? Those are the experiences and expectations we wanted to give." This may have reflected about the Matterhorn. The Skyway, Nunes also pushed the idea of the coaster to be created. It would help capacity, helping large crowds for the large crowds to disperse to enjoy more attractions at Disneyland. An interesting fact, Mr. Toad originally was supposed to be the roller coaster that would have opened with the Disney park opening day. However, Walt Disney decided against this idea to ensure the attraction would be suitable for guests at all ages, including young children and the elderly. Not everybody would have been able to ride the Mr. Toad roller coaster, but Nunes finally convinced him. Walt finally explained this vision of the toboggan ride on the Swiss mountain Alps to Disneyland construction boss, Admiral Joe Fowler. He visited Holiday Hill with him in late 1956 to Holiday Hill to explain this idea overlooking Disneyland. Walt had the initial plan to bring a snow-making mountain to blizzard the hill with fake snow year-round to create this toboggan scenery. Fowler was appalled by this idea. Real snow in the broiling mid-July in the middle of Anaheim, the hill would turn to slush in minutes, like a snow cone on a hot griddle. There's not only this, but bobsledding would be not safe for all visitors because it had no railing. Another issue would be drainage problems, ensuing thawing. Walt wasn't a man to put off an idea, but originally moved forward and dropped the toboggan ride idea due to Fowler's advice. This led to the start of the idea of Rocky Candy Mountain, emerging from the song Rocky Candy Mountain. This is the song of Rocky Candy Mountain, which Morrow Herbs popularized in 1949. Barrel Ives led significant projects with Disney, including Osh and So Dear to My Heart, significant project for Main Street USA and Disney World. The song depicted an idyllic, candy-filled paradise, which sparked the imagination of Walt Disney and his team. The Rock Candy Mountain concept at Disneyland was conceived of featuring a massive candy mountain adorned with lollipops, rock candy formations, and other confections. It would have been different because it would have had candies from all over the world, and not just the U.S. Another inspiration for the ride would be from Wizard of Oz, a classic Disney tale that would later be in the Great Movie Ride. Walt would have acquired the rights to Baum's Wizard of Oz books in 1954. The same year, Disneyland started construction, envisioning an attraction where guests would journey through scenes from Oz, leading to a birthday party for Dorothy. It would also take place and end at a Crystal Palace, similar to Frozen. In these pictures, you can see the castle, as well as some of the palace, as well as some of the characters from Wizard of Oz, interesting enough. The idea that Candy Mountain would even reach the model stage of development. Claude Coates and Harriet Burns collaborated on the Rock Candy Mountain concept for Disneyland. In 1957, they, along with Fred Yoger, who did the rock work, he also did the rock work of the Matterhorn, Fred Yoger created a scale model of the proposed attraction, which was intended to be part of the Casey Jr. Circus Train ride in Fantasyland, with the train chugging around the mountain's exterior, while the ride would also sail through the storybook land canal boat caverns, enhancing the Fantasyland experience. You can see Harriet Burns with the lollipop and the other candies on the mountain. This also shows the map. Harriet Burns was seen gluing hard candies and candy canes to the model, bringing the sweet themed mountain to life. Burns once told the tale of gluing dozens and dozens of candy, including licorice, gumbobs, candy canes, and fudge, to model out Walt Disney Imagineering. Candies from all over the world at the time, which was WED Enterprises, where they were working. Walt saw the model and brought Disney Imagineer John Hinch to come look to the model. When Hinch looked at the model, he said, "Well, when you eat dessert, you have meat and potatoes and vegetables, and then you have dessert. This is all dessert. I think it's too much. Where are the meat and potatoes?" he told Walt. "When you have a meal of meat and potatoes, you really enjoy a dessert of candy. But when you just see piles and piles of it, it kind of turns you off." This ride would thought to be make riders queasy and create a stomachache. Walt agreed and said something to the effect of, "We're not doing it. Call it off." And with that, the project was done. So they wheeled the large final model cut into the parking lot outside the WED building and let the birds pick the nuts from the chocolates. The model was later repurposed as a bird feeder in the parking lot. Walt pitched the idea. Harry Burns said, "We opened the door and pushed the entire Candy Mountain platform outside. The Blue Jays came down and ate peanuts out of the peanut brittle and the pecans out of their fudge, and that was the end of the Candy Mountain." But even from the large final model, Harriet took a souvenir. His daughter said, "My mom brought home a treasure, a box of Rocky Candy Mountain. Much of it she turned into hanging Christmas ornaments that looked like stallions, a few of which surfaced in Mom's basement after she passed away. But I took it upon myself in the 3rd grade to bring a box of rock candy to school and hand out samples at recess. I think I did this without permission. I was surely the most popular kid that day." However, this idea would go on to inspire the Knott's Berry Farm ride, the Calico Candy Mine ride, which features a candy-themed environment reminiscent of the original rock candy idea. The ride opened as part of the park's expansion in the 1960s. While there is no indication that Disney plans to resurrect the Rock Candy Mountain attraction at Disneyland, the enduring interest in the concepts suggests that elements of its whimsical design may continue to influence future concepts within the park. One of the preserved models from Harriet Burns still resides at the Trolley Treats store in Buena Vista Street, California Adventure. Here's a picture of the Trolley Treats at California Adventure. That's still there to this day. In 1957, Disneyland executive Jack Sayers, consultant and engineer, read an article in Fun Spot, a trade magazine for the amusement and recreation industry, about a wild mouse roller coaster design. Due to lots of wild mouse coasters, such as the Crazy Mouse that appears in the fair, appearing in theme and amusement parks, the article is about a wild mouse roller coaster design. Wild mouse coasters created thrills with small cars, sharp turns, and the sensation that the car might miss the turn and fly off the track. He suggested that a wild mouse coaster on a hill with fake snow might be more exciting than a toboggan ride on real snow. Jack sent the article to Walt, who sent to Dirk Irvine, another Imagineer. Irvine collaborated with Walt Disney to explore the feasibility of incorporating such a ride into Disneyland. However, after evaluating existing wild mouse coasters in Europe, Disney's team found their operations to be slow and the aesthetics unappealing. This assessment led them to abandon the idea of a traditional wild mouse coaster for Disneyland.
However, Disney went on to create Goofy Sky School and Primeval Whirl. 1958, Walt would return to Switzerland to create another film called Third Man on the Mountain, which came after the ride was built in 1959. Walt Disney was so captivated by the Matterhorn that he purchased a postcard of the mountain and sent it to Imagineer Vic Green with the message, "Build this, Walt," the head of the Disneyland construction team at the time. Once he came back from Switzerland into the United States, he called an executive meeting and announced, "We're going to build a Matterhorn for an estimated cost of $7 million. He then added, and when Roy gets back to Europe, let him figure out how to pay for it.